Hello everyone, this is Pet Crochets. Welcome back to my channel. I know that this is a very overdue video, but today we're finally getting around to crocheting this keyhole cutout rose dress. If you follow me on Instagram or you've seen my previous videos, you know that I crocheted this dress for my trip in Greece, and I actually started this dress here in the States and then finished it over there while I was on vacation. This is going to be kind of a mini tutorial. I go in depth on how to do that top keyhole section, and then as I was working on the dress I had to leave, so this will be kind of a walkthrough video for the second half explaining what I did. I really love this dress for the summertime, and I was able to transition it for fall by pairing it with my romantic long sleeve top that I kind of wore as a cardigan. Although the yarn I used for those two projects were different, they were similar enough in color that it paired really nicely. So I've actually been wearing the cardigan and the dress as a set and wearing it through the fall as well. So it's a really beautiful piece that you can transition into the different seasons, and I really like the way it came out. So I'm so happy I get to share this project with you guys finally. And as always, if you guys like my crochet content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on future crochet videos. As we go along, I'll also be giving you guys little tips and tricks on how you can modify this dress to your liking. Let's get started. Here are the details of the yarn that I'm using. I bought this yarn from Hobbi, and it's a bamboo and cotton blend yarn. It's absolutely beautiful, it's soft, and it also drapes really nicely without losing its shape. So I like that it has a bit of that cotton to give it more structure. I'm using a 3.25mm hook because I wanted the stitches to be a little bit more loose. However, you can use a smaller size hook and a thicker yarn if you don't want it to be as open. Remember, I crocheted this dress during the summertime, so I wanted something that was a little bit more loose and a little bit more airy. I'm starting off by making foundation single crochet stitches. I want to have an even number, and our starting chain is going to be from one side of our armpit to the other side of our armpit, right around the top of our breast area. This is that very first row on the top of the dress, so you want to get that measurement, and also consider that this will stretch a little bit, but that's okay because I'm putting the straps at the corners and pulling it to the back. We're starting off with that top portion. Once you finish, remember we did an even number, you're going to mark off the two middle stitches. This is going to help us when we make that keyhole opening. Now, if you don't want to have that keyhole opening, you're going to skip this portion entirely, and you're not going to be doing anything in the middle of this row. You're just going to be working rows and then working the increases on the sides of the rows. We'll get to that portion in a little bit, but basically you're not going to be splitting this panel into two pieces because you don't want that opening to be there. Now we're going to chain up 2 and turn our work, and we're going to increase into the very first stitch. We're going to be increasing to accommodate for our bust, so I'm placing 2 double crochets into that very first stitch, and then I'm going to double crochet normally all the way down to that stitch marker. Now my bust is very small, so I don't need a lot of increases to get to my bust measurement, or the highest point of my bust over my nipples, so I only need to be increasing in the beginning and the last stitch of the row, and that will be enough for me. If you feel that you need to increase a little bit more, you can increase into the next stitch as well, or however many stitches you need to increase. We're going to stop 2 stitches before that stitch marker, and here I'm just removing it so I have space, but you're going to double crochet those last 2 stitches together. So you're going to yarn over and pull up a loop through those last 2 stitches. And this is one side of the panel, so we're creating 2 sides, and we're going to join those 2 sides at the bottom to make that keyhole opening. But in order to make that keyhole opening, we need to have a little decrease. So I decrease by double crocheting those last 2 stitches together. Now chain up 2 and turn your work. And now we're just going to double crochet into every single stitch. And once again, if you have a bigger bust, you might want to throw in a couple of increases in the middle of this row here, just so that it increases a little bit more rapidly so you get your full bust coverage. And this is for one side of your breast. At the end of this row, we're increasing by placing 2 double crochets into the very last stitch. So for me, I only need to increase at the end of this row instead of doing a couple of increases in the middle as well. So this is what you should have so far. Now I'm going to chain up 2 and turn my work, and you also want to keep note of what you're doing for these rows because we're going to do the same exact thing for the other side. So if you do more than 1 increase, you want to just take note of that. I've chained 2, turned my work, and I'm increasing again at the beginning of this row. Also, if you don't want it to increase as much, you can alternate with increased rows and non-increased rows for the side of this dress. It's really going to depend on your measurements. At the end of the row, I'm going to decrease again by double crocheting the 2 stitches together. So as you can see, this keyhole portion is kind of curving inward, and if you don't want this section to be as open as mine, you can alternate between doing a decrease and then the next row doing not a decrease, just a regular double crochet, and then a decrease in the next row, or just doing 1 decrease. So our keyhole opening is kind of a diamond shape, so we're actually doing decreases to our desired half size or half length of our opening. So you're going to keep going until you feel that this is your desired length. Remember, multiply that length by 2 because it's just half. And now that I've reached my desired length, I'm just going to increase at the end here and double crochet down to that middle section. And now instead of doing a decrease, I'm actually going to be increasing into that final stitch by placing 2 double crochets. Now we're going to be increasing because we're creating kind of a diamond. We're decreasing first, and now we're doing the other slope by increasing. And for the side of the panel, you kind of want to just measure this out either with measuring tape or try it on, and you're going to stop when this covers one of your breasts. So if it goes from this middle part of your body to the side of your breast and you got that coverage, I would stop doing the increases at the side of the dress because you don't want the side to get too long. Now you're just going to continue doing those increase rows for that middle keyhole section for the same amount of rows that you did for the decreases. So whatever you did previously for half of that diamond or keyhole opening, you're going to do the same exact number of rows, but now inverted. So now instead of doing decreases, you're going to do increases. And I'll show you what to do when we reach that amount of rows. This is my final increase for that keyhole opening area. So now we have the same amount of rows that we did decreases, we have the same amount of rows that we did with increases. So this is what it looks like. As you can see, it's making half of a diamond shape for that inner portion where the midline of our body is. From here, you're just going to chain up 1, cut, and pull the yarn through to secure. We've finished half of the top portion of our dress, and now we need to do the same exact thing on the other side. So you're going to pull a slip knot through that corner stitch on the other side where that chain is, a single crochet chain. You're going to chain up 2, turn your work, and now remember we started with decreases, so we're going to repeat the same exact step. So I'm increasing into that first stitch or doing however increases I need for the side of my dress. And then when I reach the last 2 stitches of my row, remember I did a decrease for the other side, so I'm going to be decreasing for this side, repeating all the same steps for that panel. This is why it's so important to write down what you did so you have 2 identical sides. Once you finish the other side, this is what it should look like. So we have 2 identical sides with this diamond shape in the middle. Now I'm just chaining up 1 and turning my work, and I'm going to clean up this rough edge where that diamond hole opening is going to be by placing single crochets along the entire perimeter of this opening. So I'm going all along that rough edge. There's no clear stitch to go into. Just try to make these single crochet stitches as evenly spaced out as possible. This step is of course optional, but I just like it to look a little bit more cleaned up. So you're going to go all the way around and then all the way down to the other side of the panel as well. So as you can see, that opening is now nice and cleaned up, and there's no rough edges. Now we're going to join this section together and close up that keyhole opening by placing your hook into the corner stitch of the other side of the panel and then doing a slip stitch, and that will join the bottom row together. So now that I have done my slip stitch, that bottom row is joined together, and this is what you have. So you have that diamond hole opening, the bottom row is joined. I also like to slip stitch into the next stitch, even the next 2 stitches, to make sure that this is secure and it doesn't come undone. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and you can chain up 1, cut the yarn, and pull it through to secure. At this point, you can also try it on, so you want to make sure that the keyhole opening is not so big that's going to expose any of your breast. And you want to make sure that the side of the dress is wide enough or long enough that it's covering both sides of your breasts entirely. We're ready now to continue working on the body of the dress. So I'm pulling a slip knot through the corner stitch, and I'm going to chain up 2. Now I'm going to be increasing again because we finished our bust area, but we need to increase for our waist and the rest of our body. So I'm going to be placing 2 double crochets into the beginning and the end of the stitch. If you find that you need to increase more for your rib cage area as we go down to the waist area, you can throw in more increases in this row. You're just going to double crochet all the way down. You're even double crocheting into that slip stitch at the center where we joined the 2 panels together. So just throw in a double crochet like I did here and keep double crocheting all the way down. Now whatever increases you do, let's say in the beginning of the row, you also want to do at the end of the row because we want this to be symmetrical. So if you do an increase into the first 2 stitches, make sure you increase into the last 2 stitches. You just want to make sure that it's nice and even. And then sometimes if you feel like you need more increases, you can throw some increases in the middle of the row as well. This step is optional, but I also added some decreased rows for the under bust area because I wanted this to be more fitted. So you're just going to do a couple of decreased rows if you want for the under bust area by double crocheting the first 2 stitches together and then double crocheting those last 2 stitches together. Remember, whatever you do in the beginning of the row, you replicate at the end of the row so it's nice and symmetrical. So I believe I alternated between decrease and non-decrease rows for a couple of rows just so it cinches in towards the under bust area instead of being kind of a straight through rectangle. So this is what I have so far. As you can see, it kind of curves in a little bit more, and so far I have around 5 inches. Now this is the part of the video where I start going into freehand mode and rushing mode to get this done. So basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to always add increases at the beginning of the row and the end of the row. That's a constant. You're always going to increase at the beginning and the end of the row, but now you're also adding increases in the middle of the row because you really need this to rapidly increase. Basically want the 2 ends of this dress or this panel to wrap around our waist and touch at the back of our body. So you need a lot of increases in order to get to that point. So we are now right around the under bust area. So we need this to go from the under bust area down to our waist area, but also for it to be long enough that the 2 ends can join, like so. This is a different tutorial that I did. I'll be linking it above. But as you can see, the 2 ends join at waist length and touch at the back. So this is what we want to do with this dress as well. So you're always increasing at the beginning of the row, always increasing at the end of the row so it's pointed, those 2 ends are pointed, and then adding increases in the middle of the row, enough so that with each increase it increases more and more. And remember that the goal is to be able to touch those 2 ends right around the waist area, and they should be able to touch at the back. Not so that it's so tight, but make sure that it has a little bit of room as well. So this is what my panel looks like so far. When I fold it in half, it is somewhat symmetrical. The 2 sides join up because we were always increasing those sides the same and keeping it constant. So here's what it looks like so far. I'm just going to fold it the way it's going to be on my body. So those 2 ends will join at the center of the dress like so. So as you can see here, I'm placing the 2 ends right down the center of the dress. And I'm also measuring it out to make sure that it is symmetrical. Now for the rest of this dress, we're no longer increasing in the beginning or the end of the row. We're not going to touch it at all. It will always be just 1 regular double crochet at the beginning, 1 regular double crochet at the end of the row. This is because we don't want it to be slanted anymore at these 2 points. We want it to go straight down because we're going to seam up that portion. Instead, you're going to increase into other parts of the dress. So here I'm just marking off the 2 areas for my hips. You can do this as well, so I place 2 stitch markers, 1 on each side at the corners of the dress for my hip increases, but I'm also increasing in other points of the dress as well. I just added those 2 stitch markers to give me an idea of where to increase. So I also increased 2 or 3 times between those stitch markers, but once again, we're not increasing in the beginning or the end of the row. We want the 2 points to go straight down. However many increases you do each row will depend on your body type and how much you need to increase. I didn't take any measurements really for this part. I just kind of kept trying it on, and you want to keep doing those increase rows until this reaches your hip width. So you are able to wrap this around and it wraps around the widest point of your hips. So for me, as you can see, this is what it looks like so far. I kept increasing into the stitch markers for my hips, but I also increased in the middle between the 2 stitch markers, and also 1 or 2 stitches before the stitch marker as well. But again, I left the beginning and the end of the row alone. As you can see, it's going straight down. That's what we want. I'm just removing the stitch markers because this now wraps around the widest point of my hips. And from here, I'm just adding regular double crochet rows until this reaches my desired dress length. This is what my panel looks like so far, and now we're going to seam this. So you're going to seam this as far up as you'd like, and if you feel that you won't be able to pull this dress up over your hips, you can leave enough space at the top where you can do some sort of lacing detail or corset detail that you can open and slip the dress on and then kind of cinch it in. Before seaming, I did a single crochet perimeter to clean up all the edges, so I single crocheted all the way around, and then I did the seaming by doing single crochets and joining those 2 ends together and going up as far as necessary where I'm able to slip this on and off, and the opening is not too low. I also added shells to that back opening area and then the bottom edge of the dress, and then added the straps as well. So I seamed up those straight edges along the back, and actually seamed this up a little bit more because I was able to slip this on and off comfortably, and then added the shells. So this is what the shells look like at the top of the dress and the bottom of the dress. I didn't add shells after the strap portion. However, you can kind of play around with the design of this and do it to your liking. Once I finished the shells, I also added the straps. So I'm going to link the tutorial for the backless bow dress. It's the same exact straps I did there for this dress. And that's basically it, you guys. Here's just a couple of clips of me finishing this dress up in Greece. The view was absolutely beautiful. If you want to see more clips of Greece, I have some previous videos including a lookbook of all the crochet items I wore in Greece on my channel if you want to check that out. But this is me wearing the dress while I was over there. I wore this to dinner a few times. It was perfect. It's breezy, it's light, the yarn is just so silky and soft, and it was the perfect mix of a little risque with a little bit of elegance. So I really love this dress. It was perfect for my vacation, and I also wear it now, transitioning it to fall. I have a tutorial up on how I did this flower with the tendril detail for another tutorial that I'll be linking as well. I'll be linking as many helpful videos or tutorials as I can in the description box below so you can make your own dress as well. I hope this video was helpful for you guys so that you can kind of see my thought process on how I created this dress, and I hope that you guys try it out and make your own. If you guys have any questions, comments, or you just want to share some of your progress pictures or the creations you made using my patterns, you can find me on Instagram at @petpetcrochets and shoot me a message there. And as always, if you like my content, videos, and tutorials, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye everyone!